Welcome back to Off the Curb. Justin Spiro here. I did an extended Twitter Spaces today with Odell Bredham Jr., a number of other dignitaries from Michigan State Twitter already on this topic today. And this was like an hour and a half long that this was going on. But for one pretty funny prank call, which I appreciated, it was very heavy on MSU transfer portal, particularly as it pertains to Germie Bernard. And that's where we're going to start. I want to go with the Max Olson tweet announcing this that started the sort of cascade of emotions in Michigan State fandom and set the table for what happened here, what I've learned in the last few hours. So this is from Max Olson, one of a few that broke the story all within a couple of minutes. Michigan State wide receiver Germie Bernard has entered the transfer portal, The Athletic has learned. The four-star freshman had 128 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns this season. So I think the natural question that is going to come out of everybody when news like this drops after, your jaw hits the floor, if you were one of those people, is why? Why are we here? So I had theories about Germie Bernard about a couple weeks ago. I talked about it with a few Michigan State dignitaries that were here during our Jaden Akins, Tyson Walker show, and we were just talking about everything under the sun. I know inside information at the time. My thought was Germie Bernard probably wasn't thrilled with how this year went, and so much not thrilled that he might be looking for his way out the door. You had the ultimate Michigan State reporter in Justin Thind say that he hadn't heard anything to that effect. And as it turns out, he was right, because there was no ample or actual tangible buzz at that time, at least not from the kid himself, regarding this possibility. So it was me reading the tea leaves, making a guess, and there was nothing substantive to that at that time. Now there is. I feel confident in reporting that my theory is true in large part, and I think this is a case of a deviation between what expectations are and what reality is. And I think this is not unique to Michigan State football players, not unique to athletes. I think that is a very human emotion where you're starting a new job or you're starting a new relationship or anything new that's unfamiliar that you're coming into with a certain level of expectation. And for whatever reason, it doesn't work out, whether it's your fault, their fault, the universe's fault, doesn't matter. It's just not there. The expectation about Michigan State's quality as a program, Michigan State's honesty and how they dealt with things, just the quality of the facilities, the coaching staff, all that was in line with the expectation. The reality met the expectation. Where there was a departure from the expectation was the actual on-field performance and the role. So I have it on pretty good authority now from two people. Germie Bernard, I have not spoken to Germie, but has been on my show sitting a couple feet away from where I'm sitting right now. I feel pretty comfortable saying I have a grasp on this issue from two conversations I had right after the Spaces tonight, confirming this. So to set the table, I want to go back to that aforementioned Germie Bernard appearance on the flagship show for this media brand, the Spiro Avenue show. I asked Germie Bernard, this was about 10 months ago, it was well before the season. It was like, I don't know, January or February or something of this year. So well before the season, I said, look, you just came off this commitment. You were flipped from University of Washington. You're coming in with a lot of buzz. Are you expecting to play right away, take a big role? Are you more taking a back seat freshman year? I asked him what his expectations were for his freshman season at Michigan State. This is how that went. I don't know if this discussion has taken place with you and the coaching staff, but there's no reason to think you wouldn't play some this year, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, is that kind of your expectation or what you think will happen?
My expectation is to start. I don't think anything less of that, because I know what my goals and aspirations are and how competitive I am and how hard I work. So, I mean, as long as I know the playbook and know the plays, I mean, my talent does the rest.
Do you have anything in the way of assurances from them? Because their big thing is we don't make promises about, we're guaranteeing playing time.
Nah, Coach Hawk was just like, I play freshman. So, I mean, if you're better than the guy in front of you, then I'm going to play you.
So, I mean, you heard it right from the horse's mouth, and that was reflected in my conversations with him off camera as well. He had what I would say kind of a healthy cockiness, the kind of thing you want to see from a wide receiver, a cornerback. Maybe you don't love it as much in a quarterback, certainly not at the NFL level, but even college to a certain extent. I, it was a good thing. Do not take that as a bad thing. What I'm saying, I think I even said on Twitter at the time, like he's got that kind of healthy fu wide receiver one mentality that, frankly, Jaden Reed had and has and served him really well. So it's not a criticism, but it is a reality that that was his mentality. He said, you heard it, that he thought he was going to start day one. He's going to make an impact on day one. He was given assurances, hey, from Courtney Hawkins, the position coach at Michigan State, great in his own right. Hey, I play freshman. Like, yeah, if you're the best guy here, you're going to play. Or if you're one of the 3 or 4 best guys, you'll be on the field, and it's going to line up with that in terms of your snap count. And the bottom line is the production really wasn't there when there were a few chances to provide it. I mean, the big example was obviously University of Washington, kind of a weird situation with Jaden Reed as that hit on the sideline and has like a cut on his back, one of the weirder injuries in Michigan State recent history. And there were a lot of opportunities in that game for Germie to have a coming out party. That was the expectation, was that Germie Bernard would light it up. And there wasn't really anything there. I mean, he just was not getting open. Again, this is a young kid on his essentially his first true rodeo on the road in a tough environment against a good team. That's not a criticism of Germie Bernard. It's just the reality. There are a host of wide receivers throughout Michigan State history and around the country that have been phenomenal and weren't ready freshman year to be phenomenal. So I had this takeaway from someone on the spaces earlier that I said Germie Bernard sucks is just ridiculous. I never said that. And it's not an indication that he can't become really good at some point down the road. But the bottom line is this year, he wasn't there when he got that chance by all accounts. And even just watching the game, this wasn't a case of Peyton Thorne missing a wide open Germie Bernard streaking on the sideline 3 times. I mean, we all watched that game. That was actually one of Thorne's best games of his career, if you look at it. But he just wasn't open and wasn't getting open. And the determination was throughout the year that he was not better than the guys that are playing in front of him. And, you know, people are saying, oh, it's a function of Peyton Thorne's ineptitude. You had 2 wide receivers this year, Keon Coleman and Jaden Reed, have really good years and really productive years. So I look, you can say whatever you want about Peyton Thorne's performance, underperformance. I don't really care. It's not really relevant to this. There were balls up in the air for receivers that could get open. Doesn't mean we had the best quarterback in the Big Ten or the country or any of that. But Germie Bernard was not at a point this year in the coaching staff's mind that he should be out there at a heavy volume. So if you're coming into this as Germie Bernard, you're extremely talented. You've been the best or second best player on every team you've ever played on growing up. You were heavily courted out of high school. You had the full court press coming from Mel Tucker, Courtney Hawkins, I mean, the whole Michigan State staff. And you're coming in with an expectation that I'm going to be starting or playing heavy volume, and that doesn't become realized. That's how you land here. I mean, the end of the year stats, I mean, it is what it is. It's 7 catches. There are multiple Michigan State receivers that outpaced that in one game this year. So I just think he is a really talented kid that wasn't quite ready to play yet. I think he could be a star as soon as next year. We all know the talent's there. But the list of guys that are ready to be really good as true freshmen is a lot shorter than the list of guys that aren't ready. I mean, you're talking NFL Hall of Fame receivers that were redshirted or didn't do anything their first year, sometimes their first 2 years. So do not take this as a negative take on Germie Bernard. He's in the vast majority of guys that did not have a performance and did not participate or perform at a level in practice, have a chance to perform at a level that demanded their spot on the field. It's just, he's in the majority. It's not a knock on the kid. And I don't think he sees it that way from my conversations. He was very frustrated with his lack of snaps, what he perceived as his lack of opportunity. I'm not getting into the quarterback stuff. I mean, from what I'm told, that really wasn't the issue. He just wanted to play more. And I get it. I mean, if you're a kid his age, I mean, even an adult. I'm in my mid 30s. Even I would be like, shit, I thought I was going to have a big role in this company. What's going on? They're kind of like sitting me out and I'm watching on the sidelines here doing nothing. I get it. Not going to rip the kid, but that is what's going on here. And it's really a kid who is frustrated about a departure from his expectations. I mean, that's really all it is. And I guess this was very recently sort of coming down where the frustration boiled up. You know, you start getting guys in your ear saying, hey, man, like you're a star. Like you should have been out there more. And that stuff kind of builds up, builds up. I was told as of a couple of weeks ago, the intention wasn't to transfer. I was told that he had at least 3 conversations with Courtney Hawkins, his position coach, again, a Michigan State legend and great guy. He had 3 conversations with Courtney Hawkins, just expressing some of these frustrations in the recent days. And it was determined that we need to escalate this to head coach Mel Tucker to, sort of address this, see where we're at. And Jeremie's position was not, I'm out of here, see you later, but it was very blunt and basically, I expect to be out there more. And Mel Tucker ain't playing that with anybody. I mean, Mel Tucker will let anybody walk out the door if their attitude is like, look, I need some type of promise or assurances here that I'm going to be on the field. So that it's just not going to happen. It doesn't matter who it is. It could be the best player. I mean, if Kenneth Walker walked up to Mel Tucker last year and said, hey, coach, give me the rock 40 times a game or I'm out of here, I'm going to quit midseason, Tucker would have swallowed his pride and, or not swallowed his pride, but opposite swallowed his pride. He would have just said, look, I'm going to accept the losses here that are going to probably come from your departure. He's not going to play that. Like Mel's not going to do that. So, and I commend Mel for not doing that. So I guess they had reportedly a conversation yesterday, I believe it was yesterday, within the last 48 hours. And Germie was not rude, but did express that, look, I expect to play more. And that promise was not given. And that's basically it. It was not a let the door hit you on the way out. Michigan State wants to keep Germie Bernard. They like Germie Bernard. I can speak from personal experience. Germie Bernard's a good kid. I mean, he was in my home and was nice to my daughter when he saw her for 5 seconds. He's a great guy. So nobody hates Germie Bernard. Nobody wants Germie Bernard gone. And Germie Bernard doesn't hate anybody at Michigan State and isn't particularly mad at anybody at Michigan State either. It's just a kid that wants to play more. He thought he should have played more this year. He was willing to come back, but he wants some assurances that he's going to be on the field. And I get that. You only have a short window. His red shirt was kind of burned this year. They didn't use it. They're not going to red shirt him wherever he is as a sophomore. So this is not any, I hate my teammates. I hate the program that wants me out of here. It's none of that. It's a kid that just wants to play more and a program that's unwilling to guarantee that he will. Doesn't mean that they don't think he can. It doesn't mean that they don't think he could be wide receiver 1 or 2 with Keon Coleman. I think he's presumably going to be that if he stays, and that's what we'll come to next. I was told it's not 100% sure that he doesn't turn around and come back. The estimate, I talked to 2 people in this camp. One said 80%, one said 90% that he's gone. So, I mean, if you want to average those 2 out, and they're both credible people that are legit, it wasn't an anonymous tip. I know who these guys are. It's a 15% chance if you're averaging them that he's back. So this is not over, but it's not gonna end in a return without some kind of a, hey, like, welcome back. But just so you know, you're not promised anything because nobody is in this program. And I respect Mel Tucker for not bending on that. Like, the second you start making those exceptions, you become a team full of exceptions. And that's what he said about his recruiting approach in terms of size. Like, I'm going to make an exception for this guy, even though he's 60 pounds undersized for a defensive tackle or whatever. And then once, it's fine. You can maybe get away with that. Michigan State got away with it for many years, going undersized and, under recruited or whatever. But pretty soon you wake up and one exception becomes 2, becomes 5, becomes 10. And as Mel Tucker said, you have a team full of exceptions, and he doesn't want that. So there's no like villain here. It's just a program led by a head coach who is honorably holding himself and his players and anyone coming through his office to the standard that he promised. Nothing's promised here. And a kid looking out for his best interests. He's got a chance to be a pro receiver. So why wouldn't he seek out his best interests? He should be selfish. I don't like to use the term selfish, but he should be. These kids all should be. You can get into the debate of whether it's best for him to leave. I don't think so. I know there's even some people in his camp that think this is not the best move. They love Mel Tucker. They love the direction. They love that entire quarterback room, whomever emerges from it as the starter going forward. They love Michigan State's history of churning out really productive wide receivers. It's one of the best schools in the entire country at wide receiver production. I mean, it just goes back to Rison, Muhammad, Charles Rogers, Plaxico Burress, in recent vintage, BJ Cunningham, Tony Lippett. Yeah, just pure college level, Blair White. I mean, this is a really, really good program for wide receivers. And there's people that don't think this is the right move. He also has, from what I'm told, people in his camp that are saying, look, you got to get out of there and go where you're going to be promised to play. And there are programs that will promise Germie Bernard a lot of reps. I mean, that's a promise that this program won't make and others will. So that's why we're here. So I have been told, I mean, I wrote it down to make sure I got it right, but it is, 90-10 and 80-20 that he's gone in favor of him going. And the clear-cut favorite, which was the speculated favorite to land him, is University of Washington, where the original dalliance was. He was flipped from that program to Michigan State last year. They are the heavy, heavy favorite to land him. I would be shocked, based on my two conversations, if he lands somewhere other than Washington or back in the arms of Mel Tucker and East Lansing. Who knows? I mean, that's not saying that's a lock. I'm only reporting what I was told by two different people that they didn't know they were both talking to me. So they both said Washington's the heavy favorite. That's right out of his camp. No one has said it's a done deal or it's about to happen or it's imminent or anything like that. But as of yesterday in their conversations, it's the heavy favorite to land him is at Washington. And look, Germie Bernard might light it up. You got Penix there. It's a good program, really good coach, it seems like. They're a program that looked like they were headed off the rails and they quickly righted ship. And yeah, he could catch 100 balls and be one of the best receivers in the country and compete for the Blickenoff. I mean, it's who knows? No one's burying Germie Bernard, but this is a case of a kid that came in thinking he was going to be a huge part of this offense. Wasn't. The team thinks he still has a chance to do that. They will not promise him that on-field rep opportunity, just the opportunity to earn that in camp and in practices to get on the field. And he's looking for more. He's looking for more assurances, and that's where we're at. So it's a shame these stories can become negative. It shouldn't be. Both parties, Mel Tucker, as the CEO of his program, has to look out for the best interests of the program and is doing that and is not compromising on his standards and his integrity and his promise to the rest of his team and every other recruit that's come through there. It's not fair to the other guys on the team to say, look, you got no shot. I don't care what I see in camp. There's one less spot available for you guys to fight for. He can't do that. It's the wrong thing to do to begin with, but it's definitely the wrong thing to do when you've been promising the opposite to these kids. So I commend Mel Tucker for that. I hope he never wavers from that for anybody ever. So, and that's great. Germie Bernard, do your thing. I'm rooting for him. Again, he was down here. Great guy. Love Germie Bernard. I think fans kind of overstate. Oh, I'm rooting for you wherever you land, man. Like they kind of go over the top with this shit on Twitter to be like almost too friendly. In this case, I actually mean it. Like I really root for that kid. And I know he's comes from a good family and he's a good kid and a nice guy. And I think he's a big, big talent, but this is a case of expectations not meeting reality. There's nothing more to that. And that is the era that we live in with the transfer portal. It is a quick exit off that highway wherever you are. And, you can get into that conversation separately with Tom Izzo and whether or not this is good. I mean, what if he goes there and it doesn't work out? Now you're going to be on your third team in 3 years. That's the thing. It's like the grass is not always greener, and you better hope it works, because if you're him or anybody, but especially in this case, a wide receiver with a chance to be wide receiver 2 with a good quarterback situation, whomever you think emerges from there, and a program with a history of churning out guys at your position, it's risky. It's risky for anybody to leave a situation like that, but we'll see what happens. But I think that should clear up any of the there's animosity on either side of this, or it's really not. I was told explicitly, this is a kid that had issues with his status and expressed that to his coaching staff, and wanted an audience and was honest with them about where he stood. What more do you want? I mean, there was no underhanded stuff here that I'm aware of. It seems like everything was above board, and any discussion about what, what's best for the kid, or should Mel Tucker fight hard or whatever, that's a separate argument. But the bottom line is there's no animosity in either direction. So best wishes to Germie Bernard. If he does leave, I personally hope he comes back, but I will say it's a really good wide receiver room, even despite the recent departures through, graduation and in Naylor's case, an early departure from that group. I mean, Keon Coleman has a chance to be one of the best receivers that have ever come through here. And we talked about on the spaces earlier, some of the guys coming up behind him. I think Mosley's coming back. The recruiting, despite what anybody's whining about, because Rico Beard got their hopes up that it was going to be 17 5-star commits in the next 24 hours. Despite that, the recruiting is right where it should be. And some people would say even ahead of schedule. So things are fine. That's what's going on with Germie Bernard. Again, if you're taking the average of the two guys I talked to, about 15% that he could come back. Overwhelming likelihood that he ends up at Washington, but that is not done. There are, other schools that they're looking at. He does have that do not contact thing in place. So guys, our team shouldn't, in theory, be blowing this guy's phone up. Although, I mean, I'm not going to speculate on guys and schools honoring that, because I mean, who knows? Maybe a school has done something ethical at some point in recruiting. It might be the first time that happens, but who knows? I do know that he wanted some time to think about this before he makes that final decision, but I think it'll be imminent. And it looks like Washington, Michigan State still has a chance, but they're not begging. No one's begging. So we'll see. We'll see if the couple voices in Germie Bernard's camp that are saying, I don't know if I'm leaving Michigan State if I'm you. We'll see if they went out. They're the underdog now. Michigan State will be fine either way. Germie Bernard will be fine either way. And we'll move on. Michigan State is going to keep chopping, as we say. I got my axe behind me. So to whatever extent I can help chop, I'll chop along with them. This is where we live now. Portal season. This is not unique. Half of Alabama left. This is where we're at. So, happy to continue following this and update anything as it comes through, if anything changes, but that's where we're at. So wanted to update you guys on that. We're going to have a lot going on in the next couple days. I think there's a big Michigan State show for us on Friday, working on that. So stick around for that. It'll be early for us, like 5:30, but looking forward to that with a potential Michigan State dignitary of great regard in the community. I'm really looking forward to that, and a lot coming down. And if you are watching this show and writing any summaries on behalf of Michigan Twitter, please tell them that I do not like puppies. I think puppies should be kicked as much as possible, because that's something someone would say. I hate every player at Michigan State because they're terrible, because that's the summary that I was told was an accurate assessment of where I stood with my Twitter spaces. So hope that guy's having a good time sitting around watching Michigan State content while his team gets ready for a college football playoff. I hope I could amuse him and anyone else that hates this program but can't get enough of it. Off the Curb, Justin Spiro. We're out. We'll see you in a few days. Bye.